last year took on one of those mortgages for a property that needed some renovation. The process wasn't difficult. I actually applied for a standard mortgage with the Mortgage Works to buy the property, and when the surveyor came back he said there's a number of works to be done on the property, so they refused to lend me the money on a straightforward mortgage, so they turned me over to the we call it light refurbishment scheme. So it's a great scheme. Anybody speak to Mike about mortgages during the break. So without further ado, we're going to have Trevor on to give us a lettings update. So please welcome Trevor Darenth.
Evening, everybody. So yes, Mike's providing the money to let, and hopefully I can tell you the best way of doing it. We're going to look at this over a good few weeks, over a few meetings, and the 7 deadly sins that landlords make is what I'll cover in some detail. But tonight is more by way of an introduction, really. So that's me, Trevor Darenth, and Longfield Property Services is my company. So, you know, why now and how do you get involved in this market? Well, now's a great time to invest in buy-to-let property. We'll look at why. We will have a look at one of the most common pitfalls this evening. We'll do the other 6 on other meetings. I will cover the top 3 strategies that ensure you get a good tenant, have the rent paid, and always have your property occupied, which is what a landlord wants. He wants his rent paid on time, and he wants his property looked after. It's a very simple business, really, if not always easy. And the one step you must follow to ensure you get maximum return on your investment. You'll have to come to another meeting to see that one, but we'll cover what we can tonight. So, a little bit about Longfield Property Services. I'm a letting agent. My company, I'm a letting agent. I've owned Longfield Property Services since 2009. Prior to that, I have a background in sales and property. The company was established in 1988 and offers a pretty bespoke service. We're not estate agents that weren't making enough money selling houses, so decided we would do a few lets to try and pay the rent. Lettings and the letting business is our speciality. The industry, 2013. Interestingly, 16% of privately owned properties are now buy-to-let. It's become a massive part of the property world. And in uncertain times, which we've been in since 2007, 2008, which Doug alluded to, that's still seen as a solid long-term investment. 2012, in fact, was a record year for buy-to-let mortgages even. There was 16.4 billion lent in the UK. And that's 19% up on the previous year. So you can see how the trends are going. It's seen as a very profitable way forward. So why? Why have we got a sudden growth of that magnitude? Well, obviously, we've had incredibly low interest rates, historically low. So, cost of borrowing. Let's take a brain surgeon to work that out. Lower cost of borrowing. What goes with that, of course, is saving is no longer such an attractive option. Some people want to put their long-term funds away. Well, it's not very attractive. You're not getting much for your money these days, are you? So you have to be a bit more creative with it. What else is behind the sudden growth? Well, property is still seen as a solid investment. You know, we may not. No one's pretending we're going to see the double your money in 10 years that we were accustomed to in the property world, but it's still seen. History tells us that property is going to give us a return. Rents, pure supply and demand, and if I talk specifically about the South East, pure supply and demand means that rents are continue to rise, and I don't see any reason why that's going to change in the South East. So, deadly sin number 1. You've seen the marketplace. It's good long term, maybe with some capital growth. It's a good investment, but now you've put your toe in the water. You bought your buy-to-let property. This is where people start to go wrong. And of course, the very first thing you can do and get wrong is your tenant selection. So how do you avoid being the poor house who looks like he's had a bad time on the right there? Well, you've got to do your referencing properly. I always go for a personal reference as well as the normal bank and employer and previous landlords. Amazing what you learn from a personal reference, even though they're handpicked by the person that you're getting the reference for. Face-to-face meetings, you know. I like to see the tenants as often as possible, and wherever possible, and most of them are local, I'll try and see them in their current property. And if I can be passing that current property unannounced, oh, I just thought I'd pop in to get this, I can see how they're currently living. Because how they're currently living is probably a decent guide to how they intend to live in the future. Yeah? And I need to establish their reasons for leaving. You know, why are they moving on from where they are? And people will be prepared for that question. They'll give you the stock answer. So I always reply, well, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. And what if? And how did that work? Because when you ask the second question, they're not so prepared for it. People tend to be on their back foot. And I can just tell by looking at the colour of somebody's eyes at that point if there's something else that I need to find out. Yeah, you're about to trust your biggest asset with a complete stranger. I think you're entitled to know a little bit more about them. How we do for time? Yeah. Okay. Right. So a bit like Mike, I'm using more time than I should. That's deadly sin number 1 covered. There are 2 case studies I was going to give you that go along with that. We won't elaborate on that this evening now. But hopefully that gives you a flavour, and I'm around all evening, so if you want to talk about having your properties let properly, give me a shout. Yeah.